Now, loads of us want to make the switch to an electric car right now, don't we? But that initial purchase price, that can still be a bit of a barrier. Add to that the long wait times for new cars right now. And it does feel as though going electric might not be possible for everyone. But you know, there is another way. If you're not too bothered about actually owning the car, then leasing, well, you kind of rent the car for a few years, could well be for you. So we have done the research and put together a list of cars that are not only available to lease right now without having to wait, but they're also less than £300 a month. So when you factor in the savings you could be making on petrol or diesel and other expenses, you might find that that could make you a decent saving every month. And you might well be surprised by some of the choices that we've managed to find. Now, the first thing to note when you're leasing a car is that price you're going to pay every month is going to vary, and that depends on how much cash you can put in up front, how many miles you're going to do, and also how long you want to lease it for. Now, first up, we have the VW e-up, or A-up if you're northern like me. So this is a really good no-frills city car. It's very comfortable, it's fun to drive, it's got really nice responsive steering. And being only 3.6 metres long and 1.6 metres wide, it is easy to park in busy town centres. However, that said, being so small means that it's only got 251 litres of boot space. And I know, litres mean nothing, do they? It's actually a really ridiculous way to measure the space of a boot when you think about it. Let's just say it's compact. You better pack light for your weekends away. Now, this is probably our best value for money city car here today. It has 159 miles of range and the ability to charge from 20 to 80% in around an hour at a fast 50 kilowatt DC charger. So it is pretty practical as long as you don't do too much motorway driving. Now, it's got most of the essential kit, but I guess it is a little old-fashioned, maybe basic in some areas, namely the key and this rather charming handbrake down here. But you know, I quite like that. I like a bit of retro, a bit of nostalgia. Perhaps not quite as positive as some of you is the fact that it doesn't have a sat-nav screen. But you know, it has this little mount here for your smartphone. And if you think about it, the way most of us use our smartphones now, you know, immediately plugging into CarPlay or Android when we get in the car, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's also got heated seats, which is a nice little luxurious bonus. But I think the best part of this car is the price. You can lease this car for £206.25 per month. It's the lowest price that we could find. And if you're one of those people who doesn't have access to off-street parking, so you've got to rely on the public charging network, then you could get away with charging this at once a week at a 50 kilowatt rapid charger whilst you do your shopping, and it will probably do you for the week. You know, I think that this is the most affordable way that you can get into electric driving, and I'm really quite fond of it. Hey up, it's a great little package, isn't it? Lovely.
Another option might be the good old reliable Nissan Leaf. First launched in 2011, it's now in its second and slightly pointier generation, but still going strong. So what do you get? Well, the current Leaf comes with two different battery packs, a 40 kilowatt hour and a 62 kilowatt hour. For our lease cash, we'd be looking at the smaller 40 kilowatt hour pack, but that's still good enough for about 168 miles of range and also 20 to 80% in about an hour on a decent public charger.
It's a sensible family car, about the same size as, I don't know, Volkswagen Golf or a Ford Focus, so certainly a bit more room than our Volkswagen Up. It also means that you're only having to do once a week top-ups at a public rapid charger if you're doing average commuter miles. The other thing it does is it gives you a much more comfortable motorway experience than something like a Volkswagen Up, because where an Up might feel a little bijou next to a massive lorry, the Leaf is that little bit bigger and a little bit more secure feeling. And there's more. Even though the Leaf is pretty simple to drive, the technology within it is actually quietly sophisticated. There's loads of driver assistance systems, and you do get a personal favourite of mine, which is Nissan's e-pedal. Now, all the e-pedal does is brake regeneration, and that's when the motor, when you lift off the throttle and start to slow down, spins the other way and produces a bit of charge to put back in the battery and top it off. Now, one-pedal driving systems are getting fairly ubiquitous in most electric cars these days, but the one in the Nissan is just a little bit better than everyone else's. Basically, it's aggressive enough that you only really have to use the friction brake, the other pedal, in an emergency or when you're coming to a complete stop. And even then, not always. It takes a little getting used to because you end up figuring out how to modulate the throttle so you do everything quite smoothly. And like, if I lift off the throttle now, it actually slows quite quickly. So after a while, you start being essentially quite childish. And as for me, I have tried to go as long as possible without touching the friction brake, and you can do it for a surprisingly long time. My personal record is just over 3 days. Basically, regenerative braking is absolutely fantastic, and also not spending your entire life savings on petrol is also good. So if you're thinking of making the switch to an electric car, the Nissan Leaf is a really good solid bet. And if you want to get one of these on a lease, as of today, they come in at about £255.28, and the big bonus is that they have cars in stock at Nissan dealers, so you can go in and drive away very quickly.
If you're after something more stylish, then you should take a look at the DS3 Crossback.
It has a distinctive look, a luxurious feel, and drives pretty well. With a range of 196 miles and the ability to charge from 20 to 80% in just 30 minutes means it's also pretty practical too. Talking of practicality, it has enough space for a small family and a reasonable amount of boot space with 350 litres. The biggest concern about the DS3 is that the Peugeot E2008 arguably looks just as distinctive, feels a bit faster and is a bit cheaper to lease.
The DS3 is one of the most expensive in our list, and for around £298, it doesn't really do anything better than its cheaper rivals. So for that extra money, you're just paying for the looks alone.
Something else you won't need to wait for is a Vauxhall Mokka. It's available right now, and it's great if you're looking for an electric vehicle with a bit more range. It has a 50 kWh battery and 209 miles of range, so it's probably a better option if you travel long distances on a regular basis. When you do have to charge, it can do it at a maximum rate of 100 kilowatt DC, which is faster than the Nissan Leaf. Where the Volkswagen Up and Nissan Leaf can do it in about an hour, this would do it in less than that, so around half an hour. It's actually really lovely to drive too, and hoppy in the driver's seat, it actually has a quality interior.
The issue is in the back where there's not quite enough space. The boot space is also quite disappointing as it has less than the Nissan Leaf. Wait, who's driving? It shares a lot of the hardware with Peugeot and Citroën, so it does come with some decent technology, including wireless charging, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Still, this could be a very good option for you if you rely on public chargers or you regularly travel longer distances. The lease price is reasonable at around £294, although this is still one of the most expensive ones on our list.
If you wanted a slightly cheaper option but with the same motor and battery setup, you could go for the Vauxhall Corsa-e instead. With the same 50 kWh battery, it gives you the same 209 miles of range as the Mokka. It also charges at the same rate, from 20 to 80% in about half an hour. One thing about the E-Corsa is that its regenerative braking isn't very strong, so you need to use the brake a lot more. This means it feels more like a traditional automatic petrol or diesel car to drive, which might be important to you when making the switch to electric for the first time. The best part about the E-Corsa is its lease price, because for a car with over 200 miles of range and fast charging, it's currently available at a very reasonable £261.13p per month.
No, that's reasonable. But do you want to know what else is reasonable? This, the MG ZS, is essentially a family-sized electric car with a decent range for the price of a hatchback.
Its relatively compact shape puts it up against the Hyundai Kona Electric and the Kia e-Niro, with its 154 brake horsepower electric motor, 72 kWh battery, and a range of up to 272 miles, making it a strong competitor against its South Korean counterparts.
On the inside, the infotainment system is pretty smart. There's a keyless entry system, you have a 360-degree camera, you have your 10.1-inch display here, multiple charge points, you also have your wireless charging mat here if you have a compatible device, and you also have a wealth of driver assistance systems in here, including adaptive cruise control. The best news is you can lease one of these for just £271.56, and that's with the larger 72 kWh battery size. That makes this car a really good contender for those families keen to make that switch to electric.
Alongside the more upright SUV ZS, MG also offers a nicely affordable estate, the MG5. Yep, a proper little wagon. Now, the MG5 is the only electric estate currently available, and yes, I am ignoring the Porsche Taycan Turismo. And while it's not exciting or pretty, it's practical and extremely comfortable to drive. And yes, I am getting old. It's a good thing, this. Despite batteries being generally quite bulky, MG have managed to set them fairly low down to make sure that the interior space is similar to that of a petrol estate car, albeit a smallish one. The leasing deals only include the larger 61.1 kWh battery because the smaller version is being discontinued. That means you get about 250 miles of range, and with an 80 kilowatt DC charging capability, you can get 80% in about an hour on a common 50 kilowatt charger. The technology is also pretty good, with an infotainment system that has more gadgets as standard than you would expect. It's got a rear parking camera, parking sensors, and an 8-inch touchscreen with both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's not insane, but it's all very useful. I get it, the MG5 doesn't wow you, but it's incredibly practical and a chilled out car to drive. If you'd like a great family electric vehicle but aren't interested in an SUV, the MG5 could be ideal, especially because you can lease one from just £260.41 per month.
A car that might excite you more, whilst costing you less, is the Fiat 500. It was our 2021 Car of the Year, and it's a great first step into electric driving. It's got all the charm of the original Fiat 500, but with added efficiency, comfort, and the tech that you'd expect from a new car. We really think this is the ultimate city car, and I particularly love Sherpa mode, which makes sure you get the most out of your battery range. You can also charge your 42 kilowatt hour pack from 20 to 80% in just half an hour at a 150 kilowatt fast DC charger. But the best part for me is the lease price, which is just £254.45 per month, making it an affordable way to switch to electric.
Now, all that is great, but if, like me, you need a little bit more space than something like a Fiat 500e can offer, for just a few more pounds a month, you could find yourself in something like this. The Mazda MX-30. Well, more space up front. Anyway, I do find it quite hard to contort myself into the back. It has 366 litres of boot space, which, if that means absolutely nothing to you, actually just means it's got a bigger boot than a 500e. There is a but though, and it's a big but, because it's got a smaller battery than the 500e. In fact, the MX-30 has a tiny battery. It's only 35.5 kilowatt hours, which means that in ideal conditions, you'll get about 124 miles of range. The problem with that is that in winter, you're probably looking at double digits, which is not that useful. However, it will cost you just £263.12 on a lease per month. And if you're a townie who has some home charging, then it might well suit you. I mean, I think the problem with the MX-30 is you look at it and you think it's going to be a proper full-on SUV that has probably a lot more range. When you consider it as an alternative to a Fiat 500e or something like a Mini Electric, suddenly it makes more sense. It's the same price, but it's just a slightly bigger car. It's great for towns.
Since we started researching this, another couple of cars have fallen into our price bracket, haven't they?
Absolutely. I mean, Renault Zoe, for example, that's £275.95 a month. But at the same time, you're looking at around 238 miles on the WLTP, which is not bad at all.
Yeah.
You'd only charge from 20 to 80% in 50 minutes, which might not be as quick as some people might want it to be. But the main thing is, I'm not sure if I can recommend it, especially after that disastrous crash test score that you got.
That was grim, wasn't it? That
Yeah.
Euro NCAP score was not great. So I think a better option than that would be the nation's favourite car.
Drum roll.
Do you know?
Mini.
Electrifying points to you. Tommy, you are absolutely right. The Mini Electric you can lease for £290 a month. So I think I'd take that over the Zoe, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot more refined in my opinion, and I just like the look of it.
There are also a couple of others that just missed out on being on our list. You can lease a Hyundai Kona right now for just £308.08 per month, or a Citroën EC4 for £313.90. For slightly more again, you could have the Peugeot E2008 for £317.72 per month.
So there you have it. There are some really good deals to be had, and if you're happy not to own the car, then leasing could be a less expensive way to get into electric right now. But don't forget that even since we've been putting this video together, the prices have changed every few days. In fact, to be honest, some of the prices have changed as we've been filming today, Mini Electric being one of them. So if you're keen on a particular car, but not that keen on the current lease price, do keep checking the available offers. And also don't forget, there are more electric cars coming soon that are also likely to be well under £300 per month, including the interesting Aura Cat, which is one we're looking forward to. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and switch your notifications on so you know when reviews of all those cars are heading your way. And if you want to know more about leasing or just making the switch to electric, head over to electrifying.com.